What's up guys, Caesar Media here, just spending some more time working on the FT. Today I figured out the charging issue that I was having on the car, so let me just walk you through what I have changed. I think some of you who came to the Caesar Media car show and cruise are familiar that my car broke down during my own cruise. It wasn't charging anymore and the car just completely decided to die and had to limp it back home. So right there and then I knew I had charging issues or battery issues. First thing I did was took out this battery which is sitting right behind the passenger seat and checked its health because it was at like 6 volts at the time. So I took it to my local parts store and they would check the health of the battery. It checked out healthy. So next thing I thought of was the alternator. Alternator must be broken so that it's not charging the battery, but alternator also checked out good when I took to the auto store. So I basically just started digging through the wiring issues on the FD to see what exactly failed. First things first, the battery is located behind the passenger seat right here, and the ground for the battery actually, well, before the ground for the battery went all the way to the front of the car through the firewall into the engine. So this battery was actually grounded at the motor from back here all the way up to the front. Waste of cable, additional weight, and it's just pointless. That's not how you ground the battery. So I cut that cable and then ground it right here on the right hand side here with the shiny gold terminal there. Now the power for the battery is not hooked up right now, but it's a long cable that comes this way through the passenger side. Just pop open the door here. So this black cable, and it should be red, but that's okay. It goes all the way through the side of the passenger side and into the firewall. Comes out right here from the firewall and then into the fender here, and it comes down into the starter. So let me just show you what my starter looks like. And again, my car is leaking tons of oil, so I know it's extremely dirty down here. Alright, so located here is my starter. Okay, I don't think you can see the wire that's directly connected to the battery, but it's up top, and there's another wire that kicks off the starter when I turn the key in ignition. And there's this wire that's coming off of the starter that goes all the way across the car, and now I'm gonna have to get up again. So that wire goes all the way across the car into the engine bay, and it essentially gets hooked up here to the little fuse box. Now this is OEM, and this is just how Mazda did things, and I think I'm gonna get rid of this completely when I clean up the wiring system, but this is okay just for the diagnosis purposes. This, I can say, is like a power command center. Everything power related is hooked up. The radiator fan power is hooked up here, which was actually grounded before because the previous owner grounded the power to the fan for some reason, so it wasn't working. And a few other things are connected. So that's the routing for the battery. So battery to the starter, and starter goes directly to the center. And then there's alternator down here, right? So this is the power steering pump, and right under it is the alternator. Alternator has one wire going into it and one wire coming out of it. The one coming out of is this one, which also is feeding power to the starter as well as the rest of the battery and vehicle power system. So what I was doing before was measuring the voltage right at the output of the alternator here, and it was only getting like 8 volts, 9 volts even with the car on. So right there and then I thought the alternator was at fault. But did I know, after doing many checks and tests, there's one connector that goes into the alternator, this red wire that goes down into the alternator, this basically is hooked up to the F-body ECU, which sends signal to the alternator to tell the vehicle when to charge the battery. So I found a discontinuity in this cable when I tested it. So right there and then I found out that this was the cable that was bad, and this is hooked up to the ECU. Like I said, I labeled it alternator, and then this here is actually the wire that kicks off the starter. And again, I'm gonna clean this up so it's nice and pretty. One thing I want to note about the alternator wire is that I put a 470 ohm resistor, 470 or 370. Let me verify for you. I just picked this up from Radio Shack. It is 470 ohm. Basically, you want to run this in line of your alternator signal line here. So what I did was hooked it up right here. This is where the register is located, and heat shrinked it. And this has fixed the charging issue that I was having on the FD, which took forever to discover because I thought it was the battery at first, and I thought it was the alternator, and I was just diagnosing all kinds of things, only to find out that the pin in this cable where the connector is was basically coming loose. So I got a brand new connector, and that fixed the problem. So that's it for now, guys. The car is finally charging now, so that does make me feel better. The next thing I'm gonna get started on is basically identify what all these connectors are for. The front bumper has come off, which is actually sitting outside. And for those of you who have never taken off the FD front bumper and want to know how to take it off, the front bumper comes with few bolts here on the right side, one here, one here, and one here. So you just want to reach in from the back, take off the 3 nuts, and you have to pop up your headlights to gain access to this one. Same thing on the right side here, and there are a few bolts up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, that you have to remove to gain access to remove the bumper. Once you remove the bumper, you got this crash beam that's made out of like fiberglass. It's not too heavy, I don't know, 30 pounds or so. So I'll probably keep that on the car just for safety reasons, but that's simply held in by 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. So yeah, that's what's been done to the car. Bumper has been removed. Now I gain access to all these new harnesses and connectors that I haven't seen before. These are the grounds for the connectors, horn, you know, all these things. So what I'm gonna do is study the Mazda engine harness and walk you through what each connector does. So just to educate you guys, but also for my own record, so I can go back and watch my own video and see where these connectors went, because I'm sure once I tear this apart, everything's gonna be all over the place, or just like big huge mess of wires. Now I took out the OEM radiator relay, which is 4 relays mounted here, and I think I mentioned this in the past, but now the bumper is off, it's exposed, and this is a nice little kit that the previous owner got from a guy called Peds, who apparently went disappearing on the forums. But he makes this wire harness kit, and this is where the radiator fan relays has been relocated to. And I think one of these is actually a fuel pump fuse, and it's in nice compact case like this. So this is where the radiator relay has been relocated. And of course I'm running the radiator over here with fans right under it. So yeah, that's about it, guys. Not much to it. Even though it's a short video, I spent hours and hours and hours trying to diagnose this alternator charging issue. So I hope this is helpful, especially for those of you who are having similar issues as I am. If you're trying to wire up your FD, or if you don't know how the starter and the alternator was hooked up, there you go. It's pretty simple. One wire going to the starter, one wire going to the alternator, one output from alternator, and one wire connecting the starter to the battery and starter to the vehicle. So yeah, that's it guys. I'll see you in my next build video.